Good morning and good afternoon to all participants and speakers. Welcome to the webinar, The 21st Century Gig Economy, Labor Precarity, Agency, and Collective Action, Insights from Vietnam and Indonesia. My name is Thu Nguyen. I'm based at the Asia Institute at the University of Melbourne. It's my great pleasure to chair the webinar today. So those of us who have lived and traveled through Southeast Asia are all familiar with the sight of drivers in green uniforms and helmets on motorcycles. These drivers are the face of companies like Grab and Gojek, which represent the rapidly growing gig economy that is reshaping labor markets in Southeast Asia in a significant way, in particular Indonesia and Vietnam, which are the two major markets of the ride-hailing industry. Today, we are going to delve into the realities behind the ride-hailing industry. We'll explore both the opportunities and the challenges that platform workers experience in the absence of traditional employment protections, and the strategies and tactics that workers have taken to improve their working conditions. Our webinar today is jointly organized by the Asia Research Center, Universitas Indonesia, the Southern Institute of Social Sciences, Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences, and the Asia Institute, University of Melbourne. We are going to hear three fascinating presentations. Our speakers today include Ms. Nguyễn Thị Minh Châu and Dr. Huỳnh Thị Ngọc Tuyết, who are both affiliated with the Southern Institute of Social Sciences, Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences. We also have Dr. Trang Trần, who is based at Hanoi Law University, and Dr. Diatika Widya Permatayasi at the Asia Research Center, Universitas Indonesia. As we move through the webinar, I'll introduce each speaker's bio in more detail just before their presentation to give some background about their expertise and the insight that they have to offer in their talk. Each presentation will last for about 15 minutes, and then after all presentations, we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes for Q&A. Let me now introduce the first paper, the first presentation, which is titled Fair Work of the Platform Workers in Vietnam, Case Study of Ride-Hailing Motorbike Drivers in Ho Chi Minh City. This presentation will be delivered by Ms. Nguyễn Thị Minh Châu and Dr. Huỳnh Thị Ngọc Tuyết, who are both affiliated with the Southern Institute of Social Sciences, affiliated with the Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences. Ms. Nguyễn Thị Minh Châu has been interested in studying labor issues in formal and informal sectors, social protection for migrant workers, and urban poverty. And Dr. Huỳnh Thị Ngọc Tuyết has researched rural-urban migration and labor issues in southern Vietnam, including platform work and the sharing economy. So without further ado, over to you, Châu and Tuyết. Thank you so much.
Yes. Hello, everyone. So thanks, Ms. Do, for introduction. So on behalf of our research team, I would like to share with all of you about the fair work of the platform worker in Vietnam and case study of the ride-hailing motorbike drivers in Ho Chi Minh City. So firstly, I would like to introduce something about the methods and the data and a part of the presentation. And after that, Dr. Huỳnh Thị Ngọc Tuyết will continue us to revise, to present the last part of the presentation. So in the research, in the presentation, I would like to share something relating focus on the nature of precarity and vulnerability of the platform driver classified as the business partners by the platform companies. And we focus on the ride-hailing motorbike driver and food delivery, and only in Ho Chi Minh City, a big city in Vietnam. In the presentation, we use some of the structure of the data continuously from the 2019 until now. And 2000 from the data, the first shot from the 2019 until 2021, we use the data from the quantitative survey with the more than 200 survivors and 50 semi-structured interviews. It belongs to the behind the myth, the march of the business partner, precarity of the ride-hailing motorbike driver under the organized uh, followed a legal framework. And after that, we worked with the framework Vietnam right in 2083 on the labor standard of the economy with the semi-industry interviews 19 drivers. And in March and April of this year, we continuously to interview to update information with 20 drivers. Besides the primary data, we would like to collect more secondary data from the other paper to give us some the result of the presentation today. So in the presentation, we would like to use the five principles of the fair work, including the fair pay, fair condition, fair contract, fair management, and fair presentation. And how about in the platform? How about the five principles apply in the platform for the private? So I will go deeply with each principle. And firstly, how about the fair pay? In a theory, the first firings, so firstly, I would like to introduce five principles of the fair work. Started up uh, the process of the Oxford University. They work with the more 39 countries 39 countries to work on the platform research and give a five principles. So now we apply to analyze how about the case study in Ho Chi Minh City. So how about the first is the fair page. So we define it fair page is the amount of income they receive to ensure the decent income. And the income mandated minimum wage as well as the current living wage. And in Ho Chi Minh City, with the minimum wage in 2033 is around 1.91 US dollar per hour, around 188 US dollar per month, and the living wage around 1.6 US dollar per hour. So how about we compare with the income of the private about the minimum wage and the living wage? So how many percentage they applied about that? According to the data we collect, and we waited for a few minutes. Yeah. So sorry. And you saw if with the weeks, the average income they received around in 2021 around €4 for US dollar per month. And after which they have to work 8 hours and then 13 hours per day. So more and more until now, the income decreased from at the end of 2023, the average monthly income of multiple driver is around just only 291 US dollar, same 9.2 hours per day. And they have worked 28 days per month. So I calculated around 1.12 US dollar per hour. It's a higher than minimum wage, but we compare with the living wage. The living wage, they just €1.06. So the income they receive just on 1.12, it means the income they just adapt more than 70% of the living wage in Ho Chi Minh City. And without any benefits or social welfare item. So Uh, about the fair condition, so the law firm should have a policy in the play to rotate the worker from the foundational risk arising from the session of work and should take proactive measures to protect and promote the health and the safety of worker. However, in the key finding of the research show that the worker they have to pay for their own equipment and they don't undertake any court measurement to mitigate risk. The lab firm not only provides some the limited and unrestricted training for the worker. That's all. No, they don't have any uh, social welfare or something like that. So it means they have work in a long working hour, exceeding the maximum monthly working hours set by the Labor Code 2020. The private they have work around 11 hours per day with 28 per day, and rates are taken and up to time and remain on call. It means they have to open the app on the day on time in the situation to be willing to receive the order every time. Mhm. The hard working condition, long working hours, little rate, poor rate condition. They don't have a weekend, no holiday. Uh, when they sick or they get accident or it means they didn't receive any income, any support from the lab company. Uh, Moreover, the driver must pay more hip pocket from the servicing their point on pure false earning. They are not entitled to many social protection effort to employee under the labor cost. Yeah. So we will go inside how about the concept to access to the social protection in a slide below. Here, from the picture, they take rest on the streets while in they waiting for the next order or something like that. Most time they on the street and have a snack or relax just on the street and on their motorbike. Uh, so besides that, they have to suffer some the occupational safety. For example, they have to suffer some the threat from the other driver, sexual harassment and assault, threat, assault, and from other driver, heart risk relating to the traffic accident, burglaries, and how moreover, yes, how is occupation this is not occupational disease. Yeah. Especially from the woman, they are a woman drivers, so they have to suffer some the woman health problem. Especially with the driver, they work at night from the 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. in the next day. So they have more rich and challenging than the other because increased of robbery, harassment, and road-related incidents, physical it's affected in the physical health issue, for example, headache, sleep disorder, or vision problem, blah blah blah, and uh, and the results the in effect a negative impact on their family because they have to work overnight and so they always spending and happen some the families happen and is even uh, so happen to the divorce in the family, etc. Many challenges and many risks affected to the driver they work at night with this situation, but how about this effect to the social protection? So the key finding of of the research show that they don't get any social protection except the accident insurance. The company platform should only provide them some the safety policy training on occupational skill, safety skill to handle risky situation, except the mobile support team policy to support driver athlete or technical sport app, and something like that to only provide some the training, some the information on the app. Uh, They don't receive any social protection, for example, no health insurance, no social insurances, no unemployment social. They just receive the accident insurances. So, B group for rated by Vietnam. So it's the good case to provide the accident insurance for the driver. Big group have a vision in providing the comprehensive accident insurance coverage to the drivers since 2020, and this applies to accident happening when the driver pick up their passenger are waiting for driver, or even when the app turn off. So the insurance benefit vary depending on RT status. As you see on the table, B group divided into three groups belong to the before, after, and later uh, belong on the RT status, with different benefit if the accident happen. And nowadays, RAP also have the policy for accident insurance for the driver and in the procession. Before RAP just only gives amount of money for treatment if accident happen during time. They take the passenger during time they do the order. But nowadays, they expand the benefit of the accident insurances including before and after, during and after a trip. So this is the good procession for the driver of Grab company. It should also access to the accident insurance. The driver should also access to the accident insurance. And so relating to the contract on the situation, working condition, or social protection, as I mentioned about that, really belong to the contract, the status of the contract. So it means the fair on contract for the driver. In fact, they work under the name of partner contract or letter agreement or something like that. So they don't belong onto the labor code. So several reported that their contract were too long to read or to remember. Furthermore, contract mention frequent use of formal or complex legal language. So it made different for the driver to understand clearly or to remember what's the term or what's something like what's the benefit they receive or something like that. Many key contract terms are not specific enough and more. Most platforms also retain the right to revise several important terms during the course of the contract or agreement, making the term or condition more uncertain to the driver, unfair to the driver. So, and also on how about the fair management? Fair management defined that with the platform have to provide the the clear channel for communication, and the driver have to try to they have to deploy something like that. But on the platform uh, had multiple channel of the communication available to worker, including the activated worker. So, but no platform provides subsequent evidence of the effectiveness of the using these channel. A documented process appear or that worker are not discriminated against for rising concern. Common complaint about the effect of the platform were that the workers also on rarely resolved unfair. The activation cannot be effective appear or that's gone to the telephone online sometimes go answer unanswer or it's not good. So they receive that the channel is not effective so much to the driver or something like that. Uh, because last of the mechanism to protect the driver from the company management violation. Many writers mention that the contract between two parties and the basic regulation of the company allow the company to have a broad management power over the employees, from the assigning work to evaluating work results, handle violations, including termination of the employment application log, etc. Everything. So the platform company they have a power more than the private. Regulation are promulgated unilateral without consultation of driver. The driver cannot involve in the processing to make decision on the policy or regulation of the company like that. Rely on the surveillance and source management power of app. The platform company use this power to control the drivers. Apps, customers, review, and utility decision making by the company shortly determine the outcome of dispute. Fair, reasonable, easy to use, effective mechanism have not been established for employee to ask, complain, explain, be given a reason or the opinion related to their to the decision of the company. It means a lack of the mechanism to protect them. So it's affected to the worker, the driver, no violence, no representation for them. They said that the driver said that it is quite difficult to express view, contribute idea, and negotiate with the company. Do not have an official representative to engage in dialogue with the laptop companies. Only have an unofficial group created by the driver to mutually help one another. And the result of lack of representation means the driver struggle to overcome the precarity and vulnerability they are subjected to. So in this presentation, we would like to share some the ones good practice from the unofficial the driver mentioned about that. So I would like to invite Dr. Huỳnh Thùy Ngọc Tiết will share with us about the model of the unity supported for the driver to rotate them. So Ms. Tiết, can you continue to present this part?
Okay, good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. I am pleased to share with you some practices in Vietnam. And thanks Minh Châu for your presentation. My presentation is related to number 5, which Minh Châu just presented. As we know that in Vietnam now, Vietnam did not do not sign the convention 87. So the independent organization of the worker is not yet formulated or organized. So in this situation, there is some kind of the unofficial or informal but very strong, but very strongly affected that there is a kind of unity. The name in Vietnamese, the Vietnamese name is the Liên Đội Đoàn Kết, means the unity of the health right worker, especially for Grab by in Vietnam. They was organized. It is organized in August 2016, and in some period of time, it consisted of over 2,000 or even 3,000 members, especially before COVID-19, and after COVID-19 until now, it is around 2,000. And it is and in the presentation you can see the picture of the founder and leaders of Unity, Mr. Phạm Duy Xuyên. And because the unity include a lot of Grab motorbike workers. So they are shifted into many Zalo rooms based on the area, based on the district, in order to be easier for the management, and also based on the characteristics of members, either new or old, the senior, or the new, or the member specific tasks such as logistic or transport, like a grab buy or grab food, like this. Yeah. Next, please. And the function of unity is a kind of the self-managed self-help group. The first one is for the solidarity among members of the unity, especially in the urgent case, in the night shift like this, or if they get accident or get some problems on the traffic problems like this, and especially not only for solidarity. Unity also work as a kind of the in order to as the advocacy in order to negotiate with the Grab manager to protect the right, to protect the benefit of their members, and not only for their members but for all Grab bike. Next, please. And as you can see on in the previous slide, they have a monthly meeting in the case that they need to raise an issue or to discuss something, but regularly they have the quarterly. Every 3 months, they have the quarterly meeting to share experience, to share and to provide information, or to discuss some problems in order to have good, better negotiation. And you can, if you download the website of AMRC, the Asia Monitor Research Center, based in Hong Kong, but now they move to Seoul of Korea. You can see Châu and some other colleague of mine and my papers in the cases, 6 cases of the gig worker in Vietnam, and especially my paper is also translated and edited by Tu. Thanks for that. You can see the case of the unity, and in which we can see the successfulness, some success of the unity, and especially I mentioned three critical case for the negotiation, and not only negotiation but the struggle with Grab manager to protect the rights and the benefits of Grab bikers. The first case is about accident insurance. In the past, Grab only paid for the accident in the case the biker is on the app and on the trip when I mean that during the working hours, if they open apps, and Grab did not pay for the accident if for the moving of the workers beside working hour. So the unity say that it's not fair for biker because they had to move to the summer location or after they finish working hours, they move to their house. So in such a case, Grab did not pay for the traffic accident. So Unity negotiate that Grab should pay for the accident not only during working hour, but beside working hour, outside working hour, and especially for the accident insurance is presented by Joe. In the quarterly meeting of Grab, which I attended, I was informed that from May of this year, Grab agreed to pay to buy accident insurance for all motorbike workers with the Vietnam đồng is about 80,000 Vietnam đồng. I mean that around $3 per month for each worker. And it is a very good benefit for workers to ensure that they have accident insurance to pay for them if they get accident. And the second case is about income tax deduction. Income tax deduction, Grab in the past, Grab collected in advance the tax, but the Unity convinced that if Grab collect income tax before like a kind of extra service, it's not fair that that if Grab tax deduction in advance, so it's not fair for Grab biker. So Unity convinced, and then Grab managed to implement the deduction method for months and abolish in following strong reaction from the Unity that they do not collect in advance for all of the rate of 4.5%. And the third case is about the deposit tax. In early of this year, that you know that every month February is the latest time. At the end of February, it's the first time for each worker to pay and to have the tax refund. But this year, Grab inform from motorbike workers shortly, and the time of they do shortly, so that workers did not have enough time to read and to check whether the calculation of Grab was not wrong or right. It's from all right. They did not have a time by very shortly information like this. So Unity raised that issue, and they asked Grab to extend the deadline in order to help all workers to have a time to check the accurate information. So they after 3 months of the intense negotiation, even the threat to report this matter, this problem to Ministry of Finance. They threat like this, so Grab worry about problems that they get with Ministry of Finance and Department of Finance of Ho Chi Minh City, and Grab agreed to extend the deadline for the motorbike workers to correct the information and to get the tax refund. So and in the case we do not have the formal representation organization of workers. I think that the unity of the like a Điền đoàn kết, the unity of the Grab bike is a very good practice to as a safety net for workers to rely on, to rely on and to report their problem and to represent their benefits for their works. And now, Joe, please, for the last one. Joe, please. Joe, please, for the last, yeah.
So sorry. Thank you, Ms. Tuyết, for presenting the good practice. So, as I and Ms. Tuyết presents, we saw that in the platform, so it's a no fair work on the platform economy. It's relating to the principle of the fair work of the Oxford University for that, and limited to income in the social protection, no social protection except the accident insurances, and this affected on the platform worker themselves and their family, including the physical and the mental impact. So we should focus on pay more recommendation to improve the quality of life of the platform worker and their household by improve the working condition and management policy to adapt the living wage. Minimum wage is also, but how about the living wage? No, not adapt, not just around the more than 70%. So now the company policy should pay more attention or give some recommendation on how about the policy to adapt the living wage for the driver? So improve the social protection system, especially for in the health insurance and the social insurances. Yeah, and capacity the building for the worker, the driver on the platform, they know how to protect themselves, how to avoid the risk. For example, the robbery, everything to rotate themselves, especially so the occupational health, something like that. So we should thinking more and discuss more on so how the issue, especially this issue basing on about the relationship, labor relationship. So we should make clear or clarify so how about the labor relation, the relationship between the company and the driver is in the labor relationship or not. So we make clear that it will be solved everything relating to the social protection or something like that. So this is the key finding, the result of the research we would like to share today. Thank you for listening, and we will give some the comment, some the question about that. We will discuss more later. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much, Châu and Tuyết, for your excellent presentation. I really learned a lot. So we now move on to the second presentation by Dr. Trang Trần, who is a lecturer at Hanoi Law University, Vietnam, and a member of the Labour, Equality and Human Rights Research Group at Monash University, Australia. Her doctoral research was funded by the Australian Research Council Discovery Project, explore collective labor dispute resolution in Southeast Asia with a particular focus on Vietnam, using a novel regulatory approach. She has worked as a consultant for the International Labour Organization and other non-governmental organizations. And her paper is titled Riding the Digital Wave, a Power Resource Approach to Ride-Hailing Workers' Collective Action in Vietnam. Over to you, Trang. Thanks so much.
Can you all hear me now?
Yep. Yes. It's good. Yes.
Sorry. So thanks too for introducing me. Thanks the Universitas Indonesia Asian Research Centers for hosting the events and all the panels members for having me today. My name is Chang Chen. I'm a lecturer in labor law at Hanoi Law University, and currently I'm a teaching associate at Monash University, Australia. So you might see from the animated pictures here of Grab drivers in the slide. So to my knowledge, Grab and Gojek are also dominating the market in Indonesia. So why Gojek just left Vietnam 2 months ago, Grab has been dominating the market in my country and starting its operations in 2014. So in the next few slides, I will start with some brief introductions of the research background, research questions, and then turn to the theoretical framework and research methods. And after that, I discuss some preliminary findings. And this is pretty much a work in progress. And unlike Charles and Duet, your data collection and everything looks very fantastic. Anyway, so the company Grab started is a Singaporean multinational company, technology, and started business in Vietnam in 2014. And since then, there are many wildcat strikes by Grab drivers, mainly motorbike drivers, but sometimes there are also incidents of strikes by car drivers as well. And the patterns of these strikes was that each time Grab increase the service fee or any kind of deductions, then there'll be a wildcat strike. And the forms of strike varies. You see in the photos here where there was drivers picketing at the company headquarters and inside the headquarters. And this one is about those drivers driving around city centers and sort of demonstration with the banners against the Grab because of tax deduction. And the forms of strikes get even more creative. So in addition to the traditional form of collective action like this, the drivers formed their groups on social media and went on strike digitally by turning off the applications, accepting the trip without taking the pickup the commuters, booking fake trips and so on. So you can see, in the photos, like they say that brotherhoods, let's turn off the app for today, etc. So all of these has intrigued me to take a closer look at how these drivers organizing and also their collective action. And therefore, I put the research question of how digital tools influences labor organizing and resistance of platform workers in Vietnam. And to answer this research question, in my literature review, I happen to know of the power resources approach, and which were introduced first by Eric Wright in 2000, and then developed by Beverly Silver in 2003. So the primary concern of the power resources approach is to understand the abilities of workers to assert their interests within the given general context. And to explain this theory in plain language, there's two types of primary power resource. One is power, structural power, and the second is associational power. So with structural powers, it means the location of, refer to the position of the workers in the economic system. So it is a primary resource as it is available to workers even without their collective interest representation. And there are two types forms of structural powers. One is marketplace bargaining power, and the second is workplace bargaining power. So marketplace bargaining powers means that when the job market is tight, like when unemployment is low and employers struggle to find qualified workers, then employees have more option and stand a greater chance to, to demand on increase of like terms and working entitlements. And workplace bargaining powers then depends on the status of workers in the production process individually in the specific workplace. So worker can use this power to like refusing to work or either to organize actions like strikes, sit-ins, etc. And these actions don't always need to be large or coordinated efforts, but sometimes small groups of workers can act on their own to make an impact. So I guess it's safe to say that in general, in Global South, workers, particularly informal workers, have relatively weak structural powers. But this is like a little bit top-down approach. However, it's not like the end. From a different perspective, if we looked at workers' power from the grassroots level, then we see they express powers through collective actions, regardless of the institutions or infrastructure or the legislation allow them to. So this led us to the second type of power, which is associational powers. So it means the capacity of workers to build organization that facilitate collective action. And in contrast to structural powers, this requires an organizational process to take place and collective actors to emerge who are capable of producing and executing strategies. And this requires different factors, elements such as members and internal cohesions, participations, and infrastructures, resource, and so on. So in general, labor scholars following this approach have contended that when weak structural powers among workers can be compensated for by strong associational power or other types of power, such as symbolic power, logistical powers, or societal powers. But I'm not going to those other categories. Anyway, so as for Grab drivers in Vietnam, and perhaps it's true for many informal drivers, under global capitalism, they are easily to be replaced by their fellows in many other poorer countries. Then their structural powers are not strong. I mean, in general, for workers, not for Grab, but then workers without formal protections, like in Fordism styles of factories, have limited workplace and marketplace bargaining power. So utilizing associational powers has been probably the way forward to make their voice heard. So that's why I find these concepts are very useful to explain, to understand Grab's drivers, organizing strategies, and also collective action. Because under the law in Vietnam, in the labor courts, they are not recognized as employees, and they are not entitled to really collective bargaining rights or also the right to strike. So in terms of methods, I adopted three methods. One is media and document analysis. So it's I collect data through like newspapers, and amongst those newspapers, there are like interviews with the relevant stakeholders, like the drivers, the government, trade unions sometimes, and also the company. And for digital ethnography, I mainly adopted observing online space. So I joined all the drivers online group on Facebook, and Zalo, which is a Vietnamese local app, similar to like WhatsApp or no WeChat, Chinese version, thing like that. So I observed their behaviors, language interactions through their discussion posts and comments. And I also triangulated data with semi-structured interviews with stakeholders at like workplace level, which is the drivers themselves. But the data collection for the in-depth interview is somewhat fragmented and not really continuing, and some disruption because I also have to collect data for my PhD, which I just finished not quite a while ago. So that's a huge limitation. But I mean, interviews is so helpful to gather rich and nuanced data. So in terms of findings, some preliminary findings from this research is that there's dual changes in both structure and associational powers of drivers. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic and increasing competitions of other ride-hailing apps in Vietnam market contribute to the structural powers of workers. So like they can, go on strike, and then once they find a better option, they just quit. So we have Sang SM, which is a local app, and their vehicles are all electrics. And we also Bear, which is another app, and this one is very popular among the youth anyway. So in addition, the government, in response to demands of some activists who are also drivers, and also to manage drivers and probably contain the disputes, if any, has allowed the pilot of syndicates for drivers, which is like trade union for them, at the grassroots levels. So I have to note that the role of these syndicate is pretty much mirroring the socialist trade union in Vietnam in the past, which is providing welfare for drivers, like money in wedding and funerals occasions, and also some important holidays in Vietnam. So the syndicates will distribute money to members. In terms of associational powers, while drivers were very active with their utilizations of social media and even taking over the app in disputes, their collaboration in collective action is not quite sustainable. And in other words, it's like fragmented and sporadic, and it ends afterward. However, the establishment of the syndicates, even though state-led, is a good sign of collaboration beyond those white cat strike. And I think it would be great to see to observe how these syndicates operate in the future, whether the government recognize drivers as employee, might be changed in the law, or create a new categories of workers for those employees, for those drivers. And also a comparison between different platform and how the platform architecture affect their, for example, collective action would be like really good supplementary research to mine. So thank you, and here's some reference. Thank you very much. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thanks so much, Trang, for your insightful presentation. To all participants, if you have any questions to our presenters along the way, please feel free to type your answers in the chat box, and please also identify yourself as well as your institution. It's now my pleasure to introduce our third speaker, who is Dr. Diatika Widya Pamatayasi, who is an assistant professor at the Department of Sociology and Deputy Director for Academic Affairs at the Asia Research Center, Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas Indonesia. Her research activities are centered on increasing precarity under neoliberal pressures and is linked to social and political developments in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. Her work has been published in Journal of Contemporary Asia, Critical Sociology, and Critical Asian Studies. And Diatika's presentation today is titled Normalizing and Resisting Precarity, Struggles of Indonesian Online Transport Workers. Over to you, Diatika. Thanks so much.
Sorry, but you are muted, Matika. Oops.
Sorry. Thank you very much too for the introduction, and thank you also for the previous presentations. I am happy to be part of this webinar where we can compare and probably contrast the situation in Vietnam and in Indonesia. So the title of my presentation is this, as there's a slight change from the plan as mentioned by Tu. And what I would like to highlight in the presentation is the paradox, the contradiction within gig workers politic, which is related to their subjectivity based on their experience of working as part of the as workers in the gig economy. Previous speakers have mentioned about the vulnerability and precarity of workers in the gig economy. My finding in Indonesia also highlight the same situation, that these workers who earn who make a living from gig work as drivers of app-based transport service, known as online transport, consisting of online taxi and online ojek, also experience this sort of precarity and vulnerability that explained by mostly by the first presentation. I argue that this sort of insecurity in the workplace, which stem from the shift of work-related risk from companies and the state to workers and the family, is promoted by neoliberal ideology and policies globally since the 70s. So within the neoliberal era, work has become more and more insecure for many people across the globe. And the gig economy, with its invention of digitalization of work processes, accelerated this sort of precarity, which is characterized by lack of stable wage, lack of social protection. Basically, it's characterized by the absence of basic labor rights. So again, what I would like to highlight in this presentation is the paradoxes, some of the contradictions, and workers' experiences of working and their expression of politics and solidarity. I feel my intuition is this sort of paradox can be found not only in Indonesia, but across Southeast Asia and across the globe. However, of course, there are some specificities in the manifestation of the paradoxes in a distinct context. So what sort of paradox that I'm going to talk about? First is the paradox of these workers as seeing themselves as entrepreneur, as self-employed, who are not workers, and because of that, they don't feel like they are entitled to the specific of rights associated with working in a specific sector. On the other hand, there are also this
feeling grievances of these drivers who think that they need to be considered as workers, and as workers, the gig economy has violated their rights. So some of them stage collective organization and protest to demand for employee status. Meanwhile, the other workers that I mentioned before, because they think they are not workers, they think they are entrepreneurs, they don't even think that they have to, they need to join collective organization or protest. Some of them even think that collective organization and protests are useless. And the only thing they can do is actually work hard so they can make and meet. That's the first sort of paradox that I found throughout my research. Another paradox is revealed when deeply looking at the expression of solidarity. So in Indonesia, like in Vietnam, workers also engage in collective organization and protest to demand for better work condition. But they also protesting other stuff, sometimes not related to their work. So we just appointed a new president in 2024. And these online ojek drivers, they are actually part of the political force that pledge their support to the candidate and the rival candidates. So they always be part of some major political events. And in many times, they pledge their support to one or mostly to all candidates. But the politics of these ojek drivers or motor or taxi online taxi drivers are usually fragmented. There's no common agenda that they actually want to achieve from participation in the major political events. So this is the other paradox that I revealed throughout the research. So it's still an ongoing project, but my research since 2017 has been focused in unpacking historically molded social processes that condition contradiction within workers' subjective experiences, expression of solidarity, and politics. So data is collected intermittently from mid-2018 to mid-2022. Although, like Tran, I'm still working on some other writing. So in that process, I keep observing the dynamics within the collective organization and political expression of these drivers. Though there are a couple of app-based transport companies in Indonesia, my focus is mostly on Gojek and Grab in the greater Jakarta area. So the research has been published in several outlets, and what I'm going to share with you is some of the insights from the research. First of all, I argue that the paradox within drivers' subjective experiences and their expression of politics is rooted in the formation of what I call the entrepreneurial identity, borrowing from Foucauldian framework of entrepreneurialism. My research reveals the process in which workers are habituated to see themselves as the sole bearer of most work-related risk. Within this situation, they are conditioned to personalize their problem and solution. And because of that, they tend to ignore the structural problems that underpin their precarity. And this explains why many of them tend to eschew a collective organization. So how does the processes take place? I argue that, well, it's not only me. Many have also demonstrated that it's connected to the gig economy's first classification of workers, not as workers, but actually as independent contractor or partner, which reiterate the idea that they are not workers, but self-employed. At the same time, this sort of classification or also mask the relationship between employee and employer. So it's not only the blurring of status, but also the blurring of work relationship. The sort of classification is also supported by the sort of digitalized managerial control that again hide or mask the work relationship between workers and the companies, because all process within the gig economy is conducted through apps, facilitated by apps. It creates the impression that workers actually have the autonomy, the freedom, the flexibility to work for themselves. Again, this contribute in reiterating the idea that workers are entrepreneurs. They are not workers who work for companies. So this, I argue, again, contribute in the formation of the entrepreneurial identity, which in return contribute to workers' normalization of their precarity. This doesn't happen in vacuum. Workers' acceptance of their precarity is also shaped by the context in which this sort of work is being performed. In Indonesia, the gig economy is expanding in a context where the informal sector has been pervasive, and precarity has also been prevalent in the formal sector. In addition, the welfare system has been underdeveloped and unreliable. So the reality of precarity is actually more common than the precarity, the reality of stable job. Under the circumstances, it's difficult for many of workers, including me, to imagine different sort of work reality. Also, Indonesia is now a democracy, but decades of heavy repression actually affect the way most people, most workers see collective action and their impact on working life. Many workers in my research remain skeptical of the impact of a collective organization and how this sort of organization can improve working and living condition. Under the circumstances, again, precarity becomes something that is normalized and accepted. But the main insight of my research is about paradoxes in workers' experience. On the other hand, I have explained the sort of processes that condition individualization of work practices and normalization of precarity. But on the other hand, I have also witnessed potentials to form collective resistance to the processes that promote individualization of work practices. There are some sources of the collective form of resistance. Like I think it's also similar with the situation in Vietnam. Drivers in Indonesia have formed and joined communities of drivers that allows them to share responsibility for their own welfare, because it's impossible to survive the street without working together. So these workers, they help each other navigating the street, navigating the algorithmic management, and they do this through the role of communities. Importantly, some of the communities, there are different sort of communities. Of course, there are most of them are relatively independent, but some of them are connected to trade unions. Some other are connected to NGOs, and among these NGOs, some are actually NGOs that work with labor, that work for the advocacy of labor rights. So most gig workers are not represented by unions because they are denied of the rights to join the union. But importantly, some of the association operate in a way that is similar to the ability of unions to collectively organize their members to fight against perceived injustice at work. So it is important to highlight that this collective, the communities, the association, and those that call themselves unions are beyond the major strike and protest to demand for better working conditions in Indonesia. But also they are this collective, they are part of the vehicle that actually facilitate workers' engagement in politics, including in pledging their support to candidates in the election. So again, this takes place in a specific context. So I argue what has been consolidated is actually a form of a precarious solidarity. Because why? Because most of the communities, though, while on the one hand help this worker to survive the street, survive the precarious working and living conditions, at the same time, they instill the ideas that workers are entrepreneurs of themselves. It's because the way the communities condition workers to share responsibilities among others, while forgetting that it's actually the state and the companies that ought to provide these workers with their rights. Also, collective organization in Indonesia and by these workers find it difficult to break away from the legacy of authoritarianism. So within this community and association, the ideology of harmony is still strong. the ideology of harmony is characterized by unfavorable view of conflictual relationship between workers and companies. So most of the workers say and think that they need to not to involve themselves in an antagonistic relationship with the state and the company. So even they join protests and demonstration, what they seek is actually some sort of collaboration with the company and the state. And this can be difficult. This can challenge effort to demand for their rights. I argue that the sort of condition undermines attempt to unite workers under a shared identity in which they can see the structure that underpin their precarious situation. And also because workers are so fragmented because of the inability to unite under a shared anti-precarity identity, they are prone to be captured by political business interests, especially in major political events. So instead of gaining something that they can use to improve their rights, in most cases, they are merely being used by political business interests in the struggle over power and resources. Okay, with that, I close my presentation. Back to you, Tu.
Thanks a lot, dear Tika, for your insightful presentation. We now have about 10 minutes for Q&A, and for all the participants, please feel free to type your questions to the presenters in the chat box. We already have some questions about the situation in Vietnam. So there's one question from Lee, who's inquiring about the relationship between workers' organization, especially the case of Unity and the state. The question is about how the Vietnamese state responds to gig workers self-organizing, such as wildcat strikes or sit-ins. So I believe this question is will be directed to presentation by Tuyết and Châu. And can I also ask you to respond briefly to this question? Thanks. Tuyết and Châu, are you there?
Okay, I am here. And let me see.
Yes, so there's one question about how the Vietnamese government responds to gig workers self-organizing, including wildcat strikes and the kind of negotiations that you described in your study of Unity, Liên đội đoàn kết in Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah, I would like to respond this question. In practice now like I mean stay on, but like the labor union at the district level, they include and they invite and they set up the nghiệp đoàn xe ôm công nghệ. This is a kind of the federation, a kind of the syndicate of the gig workers. And because now gig worker is not included into labor code, so this is a kind of the alternative of the government and of labor union in order to include more the gig worker into the formal organization of labor union as the labor union. So now in the district level, many gig workers are organized into into the syndicate of the gig worker, which belong to the labor union at district level. I mean that the government accept their work, and because this is a kind of the basics for the solidarity and the organization of the worker in order to negotiate and with the company, with the digital platform company, and to protect and even in the case of the government want to inform them the new the related information, the government can use the unity, can use the self-help group to inform workers about many regulation like a safety regulation, about tax payment regulation like this. I think that it is a kind of the alternative and the alternative during the meantime for organizing the gig worker into the formal organization. So the informal, now the cooperation between the informal like a unity to which I presented and the formal like organization like a labor union is a good and a kind of the practical way for the win-win policies of all the stakeholders. Yeah.
Thanks for your answer. I think that also responds to another question by Ms. Phương from Monash University, who also is interested in whether the platform companies recognize unity as the legitimate representative of gig workers, particularly when that organization scored some successful negotiation with platform companies. So we know that the Unity is affiliated with the district level union, but how about the platform companies and how they respond to some of the successful negotiation of gig workers?
I think that regardless their expectation that they like or they do not like the unity, but they must accept the work and the reaction of unity is a kind of the representation informal organization, and the unity has their strong, has their own strength. If unity wanted to organize the protest or the strike against the company, it's not good for the company. It even happened in the past. So I think that the wise way or the good way, the practical way in practice that now Grab, especially for Grab company, they accept to invite and they agree to invite many times the unity or the unity to raise the question to them, and the unity suggested Grab to organize the negotiation meeting, and even unity to send their claim document to the Department of Finance to report about the problems of the tax payment and how the Grab to collect in advance, and it's not fair for workers. So unity has their own strength, so that Grab cannot refuse their action, although they lie or not lie. But this is a reality that workers realize their strengths and their representation organization strength. Yeah.
Thanks so much for your response. We also have a question from Mutiara about female ride-hailing drivers in Vietnam and their collective bargaining power. And thankfully, Dr. Giang Trần, one of our presenters, have already shared her answer to this question in the chat box. Actually, I'm going to abuse my power as the chair and ask Diatika one question about the community groups and association groups of Indonesian online transport workers. So you mentioned in your presentation that there are some workers or some groups who are independent. Some groups are affiliated with trade unions and others are affiliated with NGOs. So what are the differences between these groups and how effective do you think they are operating in terms of representing workers' interests or supporting them in their welfare?
Thank you too. How different they are? Usually, the most common form of group is the independent one, so they're not associated with union or labor NGOs. One of the main difference between them is when you are related to union and NGO, they are affected. They are exposed to the union and NGO advocation of labor rights. So it is also become their language and advocacy. So for instance, association who demand for employee status is often related to the NGO, the labor NGO and the union. And also in some major labor protests, like to resist nationwide protests, to resist the implementation of a law that would promote the casualization of work practices in Indonesia, NGO that has relation with companies, association that are related to NGOs and union, they can be mobilized to join this sort of nationwide labor protest. With those that are independent, mostly they find it challenging to consolidate their agenda following the advocation of labor law. So usually their demand is more basic on improve wage, improve work security. Which one is more effective? I think it's different for different level, because actually the most effective one is when the association actually work with the companies, because they can get some gift or direct communication with the management. But again, that doesn't unfortunately, that doesn't really substantially improve the work condition, because it's mostly on the surface, and it's a form of charity. But on the other hand, when these workers consolidate their demand using the rights language, some of them is considered by the state agencies, like Ministry of Labor is now they are considering new regulation on this business, but it's a long way to go. So I cannot say which one is more effective than others. I think it has different effect on different level, a different situation.
For that, We also have one question from Judy from the University of Queensland. Judy is interested in the success of Unity in Vietnam. The question is, what are the unique factors that make it an effective self-help group for workers? There's a concern about, the fear of terminations because gig workers, and in particular in the case of Indonesia, have depended on this platform as the main livelihood. So do you see similar concern or issue in the case of Vietnam? And what do you think are the unique factors that make the organization effective? Tuyết, can you please respond to that briefly?
Yeah, okay, I am pleased to answer this very interesting question. Based on my paper published by AMRC and the slide on this presentation. And now I would like to answer more clearly about the factor for the successfulness of the Unity. Unity collected a lot and they organize and they have a lot of members. If all members of this is a kind of the, I think that the factor is the participation of the members into the work, into the action and the meetings of your Unity. As I said, if Unity asks all of their members to go on strike, how about the work of RAP? How about the work of RAP? Because now the time of the self-help group like a Unity is not only in Ho Chi Minh City but in all other big cities in Hanoi, in Da Nang, and in Cần Thơ. But in Ho Chi Minh City, as reported by the founder and the leader of the Unity, that the Unity in Ho Chi Minh City is the biggest one. It depends on many reasons, like the effectiveness, the evolution and the very active, the active of the founder like this. But I think that this is a kind of the big group. If those because they have a sharing meeting among many unities in the big city like Ho Chi Minh City with Da Nang, Ho Chi Minh City with Hanoi. If all unities in Vietnam, if they agree to have the big strike, how about to grab a function of their work in Vietnam, and they must, they get the problems of lose their business. So this is the big one reason. The second reason that in principle, in theory, the Vietnam government and labor and Vietnam Labor Federation, VGCL, or labor union at the province or city level, they agree to protect the rights and the benefits of workers. It is a kind of the ideological issue. Although now gig worker is not included into labor code, but they know that. But some of many important officials of Vietnam, they accept that, they agree to that gig worker are workers, are contracted workers, not like a business partner, like Grab, Claim, or other digital companies claim that they are business worker, they are business partner. But many officials agree in some meeting that they are workers because they sign the contract and they work under management, under the control of the digital company. So based on this, they protect the rights of the workers. So, and I think that, and now in reality, the many leaders of Unity involved into the syndicate of the gig worker, and as I said, the syndicate is a kind of the segment or of the party of the labor union at district level. and labor union wanted to include them in order to function more effectively with all kinds of workers in Vietnam. So this is the basics, the legal basics, and so the unity say that if they get a not serious problem, they will negotiate with the company in order to shorten the procedure. But if the issue, if the problem is very serious, that they need to rely on labor union. They will rely on labor union, because if they report to labor union will organize the meeting, but the procedure is longer, take a lot more time consuming. So they understand that what should be among only two party, like the company and the unity. What should be included three party, like the labor union, platform, company, and the unity. Yeah, they realize very clearly what is a short time, what is a long procedure, and what is the serious, what is the not serious. So they have their own wisdom of the unity. Yeah.
So much, Tweet, for your answer. And I think we have run a bit over time, so I'm going to wrap up the seminar today, the webinar today. I want to thank our fantastic speakers and all of the participants for a really engaging discussion. I hope that we have gained a deeper understanding of the realities and the unique challenges facing gig work in Indonesia and Vietnam. And I hope we can keep the conversation going after the webinar. My last word is to thank the support team at the Asia Research Center at Universitas Indonesia, in particular Riri and Sheila, for all of your help in preparing the materials and your technical support during the seminar. So thanks everyone, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll keep the conversation going afterwards. Thanks again.
Thanks too for your facilitation.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Joe and Tuyết, and Trang and Tika. Yep, all great presentations.
Yeah, thanks to all participants and your question. Very interesting question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Take care. Bye bye.
Yeah, take care, chị Mai. Yeah. I saw chị Mai. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you all.